Thanks for joining me today for a really fun art activity. I want to thank Mrs. Howard for this idea, passing it along to me. You will need some simple tools, and I think you'll be amazed with the results. So let's get started. Okay, first of all, you'll need plain white paper. I've cut this a little bit small because I'm going to be making some cards for my neighbors. I have some scrap paper, any kind of paper bags or anything that will protect what you're working on. You don't want to draw on the furniture. So get some old paper, scrap paper, and then put your paper down on top of that. This project can be done with crayons, markers, or pencils, colored pencils. And you'll need some circle things. So I have large lid, a small lid. I've used some jelly jars. You can see I've left the marker on there. Just know that whatever you use, if you use a permanent marker like a Sharpie, it's not going to come off. So this is a lid from the recycling bin. I don't really care about it, so I used Sharpie on this one. This is a jelly jar I do care about, so I just used regular marker on this guy. And I got some different sized circles, which makes a really cool effect. Some of the pieces I'm going to show you, I used all the same size. All right, and all you do is draw circles. So I'm going to put this. Okay, let's get started drawing our circles. I started most of my projects in black, but I'm going to move on to pastels. Liam Knob gave me an idea to do pastel colors, so all I do is hold it with one finger and trace around with the other. After I've got my circle complete, I move my tracing template and overlap at some point my original circle, and then trace again. And you repeat this process all the way around your project. Okay, that was pretty sloppy. Now, I can switch to a bigger circle. Notice what's happened here. I've gone off the page. That's okay. It gives the effect of the art moving on from this project into space. Check that out. Isn't that cool? So carry on with making circles all over your page, overlapping. You are free to do them all one size or change sizes. And then when you're done, we'll come back and finish with the color schemes. Okay, here are some color schemes that I've worked out. This guy, random. I call it random. I've got a pastel in there. I've got some primary and secondaries. There's no rhyme or reason to this, just random colors. This one, I chose a cool color scheme. You could also pick the warm colors, primaries, secondaries, tertiary colors. You could pick just 3 colors or 4 and limit yourself that way. On this guy, and I mentioned earlier, Liam gave me the idea of pastels. This guy is all my pastel markers. And on this one, you'll notice, I'll bring back my cool colors. All of these circles were the same size. On this one, I used 2 different size circles. Let me go back to the same size. I used a super fat marker on that outline too. And this guy used a thinner marker and 2 different. So you can see the variations just by changing up the size. Then I tried what I showed you earlier with a green outline. I did one with a blue outline. And I thought that was really cool. There's no black marker on this one, and it reminds me of the beach in spring or summer colors. Then I got really creative and I did textures. So I started with polka dots and zigzags, fat zigzags, thin lines. I did a plaid. This is a little bit of a lacy design, even teeny tiny dots. I had a lot of fun, little paisleys, lattice. So when you pull out from the view, you can see all of those colors and patterns, which create texture. And then the last one I did, you could do this with colored pencils or crayons. And if I zoom out, they kind of look three-dimensional. What I did, and I'll show you over here, is a technique of dark and light coloring. So I start with, let's say I want to color this area right here. I'm going to start by outlining very dark outline all the way around this section. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to try to stay within that green line best I can. Dark outline. The next step is to do the very light part. I just color the entire thing very lightly. I didn't find that I could do this with magic markers, but I was able to do this with colored pencils and crayons. Okay. Then I leave the inside very light and I do a medium pressure drawing on this space in between the middle and the outside dark edge. So I really like that order. I found that the easiest was to do the very darkest first, then do the whole thing lightly, and then give myself that kind of in-between. And it gives it a three-dimensional look. So what are you going to do with your projects? Well, as I said, I'm making cards for my neighbors and some of the people I miss seeing. And I trimmed this one down to fit on a folded piece of construction paper. And then I used the other part to write a little note to Mr. Fred. And I glued this on the front and I glued this in the middle, and I'll stick that in the mail today. And it really doesn't matter that my circles are not perfect on this page, that they kind of go off into space. I think that's actually a neat effect. So I hope you'll try some creative things with this simple project of circle drawing. Have a great time with it.